What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel, Life with Estes. In today's video, we're going to be talking about things that I wish I knew when I first got my sawmill. Things that I've learned over the past month and a half since I've owned it, sawing up 2,600 square feet of oak now at this point. Okay, so what has surprised me the most, I think, is that even though my intentions with the edger was just to cut 1-inch thick slabs and then run those through the edger in order to create my 1x6 boards. But what I have learned is that if I go ahead and square up the log first, I end up with prettier boards at the end, more like a higher quality cut, less waviness, because instead of trying to cut through 24 inches of log across to get those slabs, you know, as every time that I rotate it while I'm squaring it up, you ended up with a smaller and smaller log. And so now, you know, it gets down to something like this, which is a lot easier for the sawmill to process. At least this one, this LT15, this is a 11-inch by 6-inch beam, so it'll slice this like butter easily, and I'll have really pretty 1x6-inch boards out of this. So I guess all that being said, like, if you have the money, and if I have the money, I probably would have got a hydraulic sawmill. And if I decide to keep one, you know, I will probably eventually sell this one and buy a hydraulic one, because flipping the logs manually does take a lot of effort, a lot more effort than a hydraulic roller would. So that's probably the number one thing that I've learned since sawing. But the other things, some of the other things that have surprised me is just how tight I have to make the saw blade. So I'll show you here in a minute. So the on the side of the WoodMizer, it actually tells you a recommendation for how tight to make the blades. So the blade tension is what I'm talking about. Now, they do sell blade tension gauges on, like, you can find them on Amazon, you can find them on WoodMizer, but I mean, the cheapest one that I've found is probably 360 bucks. So instead of investing that, which I do think is a good investment to spend it, but if you're trying to saw on a budget, like at least I was for this project, I was just trying to go with the recommendation. Now on the sawmill, it says turn the tensioner until it's taut or tight. I'll show you here in a minute, and then from there, turn in another 2.5 to 3 turns. So that's the recommendation, but taut is a subjective, right? So what I think's taut, as I'm tensioning up the blade, is, you know, somebody else might think it's different. So what I've learned is just that blade has to be a lot tighter, than a lot more tension on that blade than what I originally suspected that it needed. So now when I'm sawing up, the tension that I have on the blade, when I press really hard down on the blade, like, it doesn't have hardly any flex at all. It's kind of where the sweet spot for me. I haven't had any issues. No saw blades have broke. I don't have a gauge, so obviously I can't tell how much tension I'm actually putting on that blade, but it seems to be a good bit, but it ends up giving me less waviness in the boards, a straighter cut, prettier wood, obviously. Less wood that I'm having to run through the planer, because it's already pretty straight. All right, so I've been having my blades sharpened by a local guy here in the North Alabama area. He's in Decatur area, so it's about a 45 minute to hour drive for me, but it's not bad. And I don't go until I have at least 10 blades for him to sharpen, and he charges $8 per blade to sharpen and set the teeth. So I think that's a pretty good deal. But he sawed up. He ran a sawmill pretty much as a career, but now he kind of retired, and he just sharpens people's blades to keep a little bit of money coming in. And you know, also I think he just enjoys the conversation he has with people that are sawing. Like every time I go, I end up sitting there and talking to him for 30 to 45 minutes, and he gives a lot of really good advice. Some of the things I've learned have come from him. For instance, when I first started sawing, I was just ordering blades off WoodMizer, and I didn't know any better. So when I went on there, I shopped by machine, because there's two different options. You can shop by machine or you can shop by length. And so I was putting in LT15 and the amount of horsepower that my sawmill had, and then it would give me options for blades, and I was ordering based on those options. But from that guy that sharpens my blades, he actually recommended a specific thickness. He said that getting the 0.045 thickness blades will end up giving me a better quality cut than the ones that I was ordering, which I think were 0.039 or 0.040. I can't remember. I'd have to go back and look at my previous orders. Anyways, based on his recommendation, I've been buying the 0.045 thickness blades, and they have been cutting a lot better. So they have less flex in the blade itself. So obviously it flex less when I'm sawing up the lumber, and gives me a better quality cut. He also told me to try different degree blades. So they sell like 4 different ones. They sell a 9 degree, a 4 degree, a 10 degree, and then I think a 7 degree, if I remember correctly, from WoodMizer. And I've just been buying the most popular one that it says on there, which I think is 10 degree. But he told me he prefers 9 degree for most of his wood cutting, and then he prefers the 4 degree specifically when he's cutting hardwoods. So I actually haven't tried any of those yet, but I do have 5 of the 4 degree 0.045 thickness blades in the shop to try out on the next oak log that I saw up. But that was his recommendation, and since I've been doing that, my boards have been coming out a lot better. So probably, if y'all even noticed paying attention in the videos, some of those earlier stacks of wood in there, they have a little bit more wave, and then now on these, the most recent stacks are almost perfectly, straight and 1 inch thick. Don't really have hardly any wave. There's a couple of them where there's a little bit of wave at the start when I'm just moving too fast right as I hit the log. And it'll create a little bit of wave at the start, but that's fine because I cut all the logs a little bit longer than what I need them anyways. That way I can cut off the ends of the boards when I'm putting them in the house. And I'm going to run it through the planer and end up with 3/4 inch thickness anyways. So that's another thing that I've learned is really the blade choice. So now when I go on woodmizer.com to order my blades, instead of shopping by machine, I shop by blade length. So the LT15, he told me pretty much all of them except for the wide version, so the LT40, the LT50, 70, he said that all of them use the 158 inch blade unless you have the wide version of that saw, which I also didn't know that, but anyway, so I know that my blades are 158 inch blades. So when I go on there, I just shop by size, and I select 158 inch blade, and then I'll filter it by thickness, and then you can filter it by degree blade as well. So that's a little bit of information for y'all as well. Hopefully that helps y'all out like it did for me. Okay, so another thing that I've learned is that water is more for cooling off the blade than it is for lubricating the blade, and the more water I used, the more discoloration I would end up with on the boards. So what I have learned to do, for me, I have use as little water dropping on the blade as I can, just to prevent the blade from heating up, and which for me is just like I would say probably 2 or 3 drops per second. I guess when I'm cutting up larger logs, I turn it up a little bit more than that, so there's kind of a steady stream, but really just it constantly dripping on the blade. It's what works best for me. Now, as far as lubrication though goes, again, that guy in Decatur that has been sharpening my blades, based on his recommendation. I've been using diesel because it's a cheap, pretty cheap way to lubricate the blade, cheaper than buying like WD-40 and spraying that on the blade or something. So what I'll do is at least at the beginning of each log, and then sometimes every other cut or every couple cuts, I'll take a spray bottle full of diesel, which I have right here. So I just keep a spray bottle full of diesel down here, and every couple cuts I will take that diesel and just spray the blade while it's running, just to lubricate the blade and really the wheels as well. So that's another thing that I have learned. Okay, so another thing, this one's really a trade-off. There's pros and cons to it, but the other thing I've learned, you know, I put this sawmill up on this platform that I showed y'all in one of my videos, which I think the height of it is perfect. I don't have to bend over. Look, really it's just the perfect height for me to reach over and grab the boards off the sawmill. So I love the height. So that's the pro for the height that it is right now. However, the con is when you're dealing with really heavy logs, getting them up on the sawmill can be a problem. They do make like basically ramps that you can buy for the sawmill to put on them. I don't have those. Again, this is really a budget-minded process that I started on this, because really it was just because of all that lumber at the back of the property that y'all saw piled up there, and I was trying to just save it instead of just burning it all. Thought I can make something useful out of it for the house. So that's what really this has been for me. So anyways, I didn't buy those ramps that you can purchase for a sawmill, which helps you roll the logs up onto it. But at this height, definitely with some of the heavier logs, specifically there was one log, it was a big red oak log, the biggest log I've cut on this sawmill. It was 30 inches thick, or diameter on the thick end of the log. The shorter end, or the thinner end, was probably about 26 inches thick, or 26 inches in diameter. But that log was over 5,000 pounds, and Miles' tractor could not lift that log. I could only get it about an inch off the ground with my tractor. So that was a struggle getting it up onto this platform that I built for the sawmill. What I ended up having to do, I did have these metal ramps. They were not designed for what I used them for, but yes, I put them up here next to the sawmill, and they weren't steel. They're like 10-foot ramps. They're aluminum. I wasn't using them for anything else, so I figured I'd give it a try. I put them up here, and it did allow me to kind of push the log up onto the sawmill while constantly applying hydraulics to try and lift it further up. So I got it up on here, but it bent those ramps, and it also bent the frame that this sawmill is sitting on as well. I was actually worried about it there for a while. I had to do some work to try to salvage this frame, because that was, like I said, it was at least a 5,000 pound log, and it definitely did some damage to the sawmill as I was pushing it up on top of here. And it wasn't the weight down, it was the lateral force while I was trying to push that log up those ramps with the tractor. So really the 5,000 pounds of the log itself, and the 7,000 plus pounds of my tractor, all that weight pushing up onto the sawmill kind of shifted the sawmill, and had a couple of the 4x4 posts back there in the back corner were leaning a little bit. I fixed it since then, but yes, that was a problem, and I did learn that. So I don't know, if I started again, maybe I would put it lower to the ground so I wouldn't have that problem. But then I might have back problems. So, you know, it's pros and cons both way. But definitely that is one thing I've learned is the higher the sawmill is, the bigger problem you'll have getting really heavy logs on it, especially if that is your intent to cut a bunch of really big logs. Okay, I guess the last thing that I wish I knew when I first started this process would be getting a moisture meter for the wood. So I ended up purchasing a moisture meter off Amazon. I think it was like 40 bucks, but I definitely think that that was a great investment. That allows you to see the current moisture level as soon as you're done sawing up some lumber, and it allows you to keep monitoring it as you're drying it. So for me, you know, they're still building the house back there, but definitely I'm limited on the amount of time I have for the lumber to dry. So like I've said before in one of my other videos, my buddy does have a kiln that he'll let me borrow if I need it to finish drying the lumber to put it in the house. But I'm really hoping that I can get it dried in my shop. My shop gets pretty dang hot here in the summer, and the boards that I put in there, so the very first stack that I have against the shop wall in there, it's already dry enough to put in the house. So the moisture level on it is down 10 to 11%, and most people recommend 12% or less before you install it in a house to prevent cracking and like shrinkage issues in the future. So really what I've learned is it takes about, at least for me in my shop, about a month for the boards to dry enough to be able to air dry, that is, enough to be able to put them into the house. So hopefully I can get enough lumber cut up with time to spare so that it can all sit in there and air dry in the shop before I need to install it in the house. So I think I'm close right now. I'm sitting at about 2,600 square feet. So I needed about another 1,500 square feet more lumber to go. So I'll keep you all updated on that process. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hopefully this helps y'all out. Definitely things that I wish I knew sooner when I started sawing. So before you ask, I am still very happy with the edger. So I don't have any issues with the edger. Me saying that I would like to have a hydraulic sawmill doesn't affect this. Even if I upgraded to a hydraulic sawmill, I would still keep the edger. And I got it at a great price. Like I said, I got the LT15 basically for free because a brand new one of these costs $10,000 and I paid $10,000 for both. So the edger still works great. You just use the handle right there to set the width of board that you're wanting to cut. So I just set it at 6 inches, and then I feed the 1-inch slabs through it, and it spits out 1x6 inch boards. So super simple to use, super happy with the edger. I haven't really had to learn anything with it. Like I said, it's super simple to use. You just set the width you're wanting to cut it at and feed it boards, and it just spits them out. The only issues I've had with this was I did notice that one of the blades was a little wobbly, which I narrowed down to the nut that holds that blade on was actually not square. It was actually had a little wave in that nut, so I ordered some new nuts. I had to buy a 10-pack. I think it was a 10-pack because that was the smallest quantity that I could order. But I put that on, and it fixed that blade issue that I was had the blade wobble. And then every now and then I have to remove this this cover right here. I have to remove that and just clean out the gears because sawdust will get in there and it'll knock the chain off the gears if you don't clean it out every now and then. But like I said, other than that, I just feed it wood and it spits out the the 1x6s that I'm gonna need for the house. So super happy with this, and I wouldn't change that. And I still recommend an edger to those that are running sawmills.